Hello storytellers and welcome. I am Lex Slank of Lex Slank Creative, writer and artist, and this is Creator's Cut, where I chronicle my continuing creative journey. Today I'm going to talk about what I learned personally, the biggest thing I learned personally, from the recent writers conference that I went to. This is part 3 of a 3-part video series, so check out the other 2 parts if you get a chance, but also check this one out too. Just talking about my personal experience and some things that were kind of a little hard to learn, but that I hope will help you in your creative journey. So hello again, I am Lex Slank. If you are new, then welcome. If you are not new, then welcome back. Thank you for watching the video and checking out this series. I've had a lot of fun talking about my recent conference and kind of what went on during it, videoing my experience there. The first video, we'll recap just slightly. Give me a second. The first video, I took video at the conference center and just kind of in real time, my experiences there. The second video, I talked about the 2 main takeaways from the group sessions at the conference center, at the conference. And in this video, I am going to talk about my biggest personal takeaway from this conference. Honestly, in preparing for this video, my mind was a little all over the place. It's been all over the place since I got back from the conference. Yeah, my mind was all over the place, and obviously it still is. You're welcome. And so preparing for this video, I wanted to be as transparent as possible while also not dragging myself over coals, or at least that's what it feels like. It's not really dragging myself over coals, but it feels like that. So yeah, I am going to be transparent as possible and just about a little bit about my journey through this conference and kind of where I'm at right now, and a few things being hard pills to swallow, but also just what I learned from them. Because sometimes we need, probably more than sometimes, but we need those difficult things in life to just sort of reboot us and put us back on track. I am going to start off by saying I am a little stubborn. Surprise, I'm a little stubborn. And that definitely showed up in this conference. Yeah, I was reminded of that. So, all right, a little bit of context for this. I have been, how do I put this all together quickly and concisely? I have been working on a project for going on 10 years now. It will be November, 10 years, November. I started this book, this project. We're gonna say project because it's multiple, it's a series, it's a whole thing. If you wanna know more about this specifically, check out episode 2 of Creator's Cut, where I go into a little bit more detail about this project, but summarized version. I have been working on this project. It will be 10 years in November. I started it for NaNoWriMo way back when. Rest in peace, NaNoWriMo. It's comprised of multiple books. It's a fantasy series. There's a lot going on. I spent all this time putting everything together and, plotting out the series and making sure all the details of the world building fit and, writing drafts of the books. Not all of them, the first and second, because I wasn't sure which one should come first, because it's a rotating series and yeah, anyways, all details. But I have spent time working on this project. I completed this draft late last year, and this is the final draft, aside from revisions, but the final draft. And so I've been working on it. I'm in the middle of revision. I am looking at, working at getting it all ready to send off to an agent and, then towards publishing, traditional publishing. That's what I'm shooting for. That's where I'm at. And I also like screenwriting, so I wanted to write a screenplay version of this story as well, because I would really love to see it adapted. And I just, would love to be part of that. So this is where I'm at. I was editing/revising. I'm going to say revising because it's technically the correct one, but editing also applies. I'm not an editor, that's somebody else's job, but I am a writer and we do need to know how to edit and or revise our work. You can't just feed it into the computer, which I'm not going to rant about right now. But yes, skills are important. So I have been polishing my skills, and exercising my skills in revision. And that's just where I've been at. And so going to this conference, there was the chance to have your first 10 pages and your synopsis, not the back cover synopsis, but the legitimate synopsis that talks about the whole story that you send in with your query when you're looking at publishing. I had the chance to have this looked over by multiple professionals. So there was, a roster of people that could look over it and give you feedback and, talk through the feedback with you. And I had done this before at a prior conference. One of the ones that I definitely recommend if you are in the States, the Atlanta Writers Conference. And I had done this, process before a few years back with a prior draft before I got to the draft that I actually really liked, but that's a whole other story. So I had a little bit of experience, talking to people about the pages and sending them in. So I was excited to get these critiques because, critiques are definitely helpful, especially when they're coming from professionals. And I just really wanted to know what people had to say. The first chapter especially is always the hardest for me. So, and I know a lot of writers deal with that. So I just wanted some feedback, just, is this good? Is this interesting? I can clean up grammar and everything, or words, everything, all of that later. But is it interesting? Is there a good hook? Do you like these characters? Et cetera, et cetera. So I put in for the conference to have 4 critiques. 4. So I was really looking forward to that. Also thinking about, I really want to write this script, I want to work on this script. And I got to the conference and as I was going to the meetings, because you had to schedule meetings with the people who were doing the critiques so that, you could sit down and actually talk to them about what they had written, on the critiques, because everybody printed it out, or I had it printed out. So that was nice. I was happy to have actual notes versus like some in an email or something, but you needed time to be able to talk to them. So I went to these critiques and they were great. The professionals that went through my work were wonderful, and they gave me some great ideas and, things to look for and things to watch for. Obviously this is probably a whole other video by itself, but there's, some, I won't say discrepancies, but just differences in how my style versus the style I think that they're used to, and what they published, because most of them were from like either small presses or, worked in a certain circuit in publishing. So I learned some different interesting things there about presentation. So I think that was good. Definitely good to get feedback. But also in the process, I went to different classes at this conference, and all the classes I went to were taught by a lady that I met at the last conference that I went to, and she's wonderful. And she also does screenwriting. So I scheduled a meeting with her to talk about, screenwriting and scripts, and show her a little bit of my work, because I had written some pages for this screenplay, and that was another great point. She had wonderful things to say, but I think this was where I kind of felt like I was being pulled in 2 different directions, which she picked up on. Very astute. She picked up on that and was like, okay, so do you want to write this series as a novel series, or like, do you want to write it as, a screenplay, or as a, film series? And I'm like, well, ideally I'd love to do both, but I am still in the middle of editing this, and I do like having something to work on the side, because I want to polish, my screenwriting skills. And she was very blunt with me, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And she's like, I'm going to give you advice, and I think I'm paraphrasing here. I'm going to give you advice, and I think you need to pick a lane, at the moment. Pick one. Like, do you want to do this, or do you want to do this? Because the truth of the matter is that I am still new at screenwriting. I have been writing novels for a very, very long time. Since I was 12. Well, I finished the first one when I was 12. So, very long time. I have a lot of background in writing novels, but not so much in writing scripts. And I have been actively working on that to improve my skills and learn different things and polish the skills and, get through different scripts and just get used to everything, because it is very different. but I am not as practiced at it. And I have not been doing this for like 20 years or something. I am still new. So, and I think that showed. And she's like, "You're a good writer," which was so nice to hear. It was so nice to hear. Because if I know I'm a good writer, and that sounds pretentious, but it's true. I know I'm a good writer. I've put in the time and the effort and the work, and I really like what I do. And I've had other people say that they enjoy it and that say that I am a good writer as well. And I'm not meaning to be arrogant in that way, just truthful. But however, you knowing it and someone else saying it, it is always a different thing. So it's nice to hear. However, aside from that, I do still need work in this area, which is something that she was pointing out. I'm not going to lie, the one part of the first video where I was walking around going, "Oh, I think I videoed this. I hope I videoed this." Yes, where I was talking about, oh, you might get advice that's hard to hear, hard to swallow. And that was this advice. Pick a lane. Which one is it? Pick somewhere to focus, right? Focus. I talked about that in the second part of this video series for the conference, focusing. Her advice was very blunt, and that was great because that is definitely what I needed to hear, was get it done, basically. And she was blunt too. She's like, at this point, since I am still new at screenwriting, at this point, if you wrote it as a novel and it was made into a film, more than likely, they would hire somebody who wasn't you, to write the screenplay, somebody who has more experience, and they would do a better job. Just because at this point, I'm still practicing and I'm still learning. I, again, am stubborn, as I said at the beginning of the video. So that was hard to hear, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And I am happy that she was just upfront with me about this. And it wasn't saying like, "Oh, you could never write a screenplay, or you could never write, a film for this series. Maybe, however many years down the road, I could, write the final film or something," because I want them all to be adapted. And there's 7 of them. So, you're welcome. It's like Harry Potter 2.0, except for it's not Harry Potter, but just, comparison. Of course, now that's being made into a TV series, but that's a whole different story. Yeah, she was saying, that doesn't mean that you couldn't write something down the road, obviously, as your skills are polished and as you become better. But right now, you need to pick a space and work and focus so that everything can get done. So I spent some time agonizing over, what do I need to do? Does this need to be a film first? Does this need to be a book first? I've been working on this book for so long. What do I want to do? I had a panic moment because of course I did. And honestly, I think that's probably not surprising. It was a lot, and there was already a lot going on because I had done all of these critiques, and just being in the space with a bunch of other writers, as I talked about last episode, writers can be kind of crazy. And I say that as a writer, but it's a lot of energy all in one space. Overwhelm, was in a completely different, state, literally completely different place. I had been rushing back and forth to meetings, and I had actually finished writing these pages for her to read, which, again, thank you for reading. Her advice was wonderful, but it was just a lot on top of everything else. And I was like, I had a panic moment. Panic moment, but I got over it pretty quick, so I'm glad. And I was like, okay, you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right. I do need to pick a lane, and in this case, I want this to be a book series. I imagined it as a book series initially, and having it as film of some kind has always been surely behind book series. They kind of go together, but that doesn't mean that won't happen. It doesn't mean that I believe that it will happen, but that doesn't mean that, I will be the initial writer, or that I will be the writer, or that, I will be the only writer, for a script, because I do need more practice. And that was definitely a point, and that was stressed, and that I think she knew what I was going to pick out of the two, And we talked about it afterwards, the following day, and I was like, okay, I want to make this a book series. I definitely want this to be a book series. I have imagined this as a book series. I've been working on it. I love writing novels, but I also really like writing scripts. I really like, at this point, I really like writing scripts, but I think I will end up loving writing scripts once I practice more. So I was like, I don't want to give that up. I don't want to not practice. I don't want to not become better in this area. And so she gave me some advice, for improving on my script writing, as I'm working on the other. It's not that, one's going to override the other. It's just that, well, obviously I still have to practice or I'm not going to get any better. Imagine that. Practicing your skills. What? But that is how we get better. We practice and practice and practice, and then eventually we become a master at something, and then we still have things to learn because that's how life goes. And it would be absolutely boring if it was not that way. I think this conference was great because I might have been panicked in certain places and certain moments, but it was definitely reinforced that, yes, I have put in the time and that, the story is good. It needs polishing at the moment still because, of course, it does. I'm not done with the revision yet, and I knew that. But I had really good feedback and a good reaction from all of the people who critiqued it. And even just the people that I was, telling about the story, the other writers that I talked to. I had really good feedback and I had really good interest. And I think that is definitely very uplifting, to hear somebody say, one, you're a good writer, but also, this is interesting and I want to read more. That was multiple people. I think all the people who critiqued my work said, I would love to read more. So to me, that means that, yay, you have a good story in your hands. And, that's so relieving as a writer to know that people are interested. Because, of course, before you publish especially, you are at your desk every day working on this thing that nobody knows about, except for you and, your random beta readers and the random people that you talk to that Yay. 10 people know about this project, but, one day I hope that hundreds of thousands of people, if not more, we'll just shoot for high numbers, and I hope that millions of people read this one day and love it and, get good things from it and can relate to it and, are inspired by it and, that it changes somebody's life in a good way. Because I know there are so many stories that have changed my life, in wonderful ways. And you have these hopes and these dreams, obviously, and you hold on to them because there is that sense of responsibility like I talked about last time. But writers are human just like everyone else. It can be very draining to try and hold on to this vision for the future and this hope for the future that lots of people are going to love and or be inspired by this work. So when you hear somebody say, hey, you're actually good at this thing that you've been working on for a while and it's actually interesting and I want to read more, it's very uplifting and it's very inspiring in its own way, to have people say that and to just have them reinforce that yes, you're on the right track and you're doing the right thing and there is a purpose to this. So that was me being a little stubborn, but also learning something that was a little difficult to swallow that I probably knew in the back of my mind. But again, I am stubborn and I think, a lot of us are. Sometimes you want to be better at something faster than you are, but life doesn't really work that way. We do have to work through things and we do have to polish our skills. And sometimes you just need a little bit of redirection and time. That was the biggest thing that I took away from this personally is that, yeah, you've been working on this for a long time. You have all these big dreams, but you maybe just need a little more time. And that doesn't mean that it won't happen. And that doesn't mean that you should not keep working on it and should not keep moving forward. But sometimes you do need more time. And that can be difficult to swallow, especially if you are close to the end of a project or what feels like the end of a project. And you're like, I just want it finished. I just want it done. But we don't want to sacrifice the quality and we don't want to sacrifice the inspiration and we don't want to sacrifice all of those little pieces that take time to put together because ultimately the end product is not only the goal, but the thing that is going to be presented to people. So it needs to be as good as it can be. It does not have to be perfect, but sometimes we do need to take extra time to get it to where it needs to be, have it mature as much as it needs to. And sometimes we just need more time to polish our skills. I learned that when I was self-publishing back in the day, which you can refer to episodes 1 and 2 of Creator's Cut for more about that. But I published young. I was 19 when I published my first book, self-published it. And That was a great experience and I learned a lot, but I think in a lot of ways I was not ready. I was not ready and the stories weren't ready. And I didn't know that at the time. I legitimately didn't. I was trying my best, doing my best. And I had, people who did enjoy it and, said it was great and all of those things, but there was definitely room for improvement. There were certain things that were just not where they needed to be, and I needed more time, and there was nothing wrong with that. And I learned that eventually. Eventually I was like, okay, one, this is not for me, but two, I need more time to work on this project especially and polish it. I think I've mentioned the film Whisper of the Heart before. It is about a writer. It is a Studio Ghibli film, and it's my favorite one, I think. It ties with Howl's Moving Castle. It's a hard one, but I really love that one because it is about a writer and it is about polishing your skills. That is, the ultimate thing about it. And I think about that film a lot. And there's a geode that is featured in the film, which again, I think I've mentioned this, but I actually have one. Oh wait, I'm in the process of still, renovating my office, so it's not up on the shelf, but it will be soon when I finish everything. I'm almost there. But I have this geode to, remind me that, as they say in the film, creativity and books in this case are like a rock. Well, you had to spend time cracking it open and finding the gems, within, just like a geode. And then you have to polish those gems. And the polishing stage can take a lot longer than you want sometimes, but ultimately it is worth the time and effort spent polishing your skills because it makes you a better creative, a better writer, a better person, I think, than just trying to rush through something and just get it out there and not spend the time that, the work honestly deserves and your future readers and audience honestly deserve, and that you honestly deserve too, because it's a lot easier to work when you have the skills, when you've taken time to polish your skills and you know what you're doing. It's a lot easier to work. So yes, that's where I'm at. This is the thing that I learned is that, sometimes things just need more time. And that sounds simple, and it is simple. And, there's nothing wrong with it, needing a little bit more time. That doesn't mean you have to take forever. That doesn't mean you're never going to get there. Sometimes time, honestly, is the greatest gift that we are given when we are working on projects and just in life in general. The waiting period that you go through as you're working on skills is sometimes the greatest gift that you can be given, because that is where all of the polishing happens, where all of the skill acquisition happens, where you gain your confidence, where you learn things, so that once you get to the point where everything starts to happen, once you get to the jumping point, the leaping out of the airplane, the jumping out of the nest, the flying, once you get to that point, all of those skills are necessary, and all of that time that you spent on polishing and acquisition and just gaining confidence is all that's already instilled in you, so that when you get to that point where you can leap and start flying, then you have all that behind you. You have those skills backing you. You have that confidence backing you. You are not going to fall as easily because you've put in the time and the effort, and you have a good foundation. Appreciate the time that you have, and appreciate the skill gaining period, and appreciate all the work that you're putting into your project, and the fact that you care about it enough to polish it well, and to, maintain your responsibility, and to honestly make that responsibility matter, because you're not willing to just throw it out there and have it be, whatever it is. Have it be whatever it is. It's good enough. You're taking the time because you care. That time is there to shield you from not doing the work well. So just a reminder, you're spending lots of time with your story, with your creative project. All that time is making it even more important because it's backed by something. It's backed by hours of your life, not just by a few ideas thrown together. So take your time. It's okay to take your time. It's all right. And it's okay if it's taking a little more time than you want, because you might just need that time. And that time might be the whole difference between something that's okay and something that's great. So I hope you have enjoyed this episode and my rambling about all of my craziness at the conference. Thank you for watching. I hope this inspired you and that you learned a few things from it that you can take back to your own creative life to help you also on your creative journey. If you have not subscribed already, please subscribe for more writing content like this and hopefully more things that can help you again in your own journey. And if you have not, please leave a like for this video and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. I will be doing a mid-year update soon. And also I will be doing part 2 to my most popular video so far. Thank you everyone who watched. And that was rekindling your writing joy. So I will be doing part 2 to that, and I'm really looking forward to it. See you next time. Bye!